since I started working in when I got out of college, and my mother made me work for her in the office. So my rental business feeds the sales. And, I've been doing it for a long time. I have a very big business, and the rental customers turn into buyers. And the relationships that I make with the homeowners renting their houses is how I get the listings. And that's the reason why I do rentals. So that's how I got this one.
It's interesting. A lot of real estate agents will avoid the rentals, but what you say is true. That rentals often lead to sales if you stay in touch with those people and take care of them. One of the things that I noticed about you, Lisa, was how well, even though you and I and our family and our families knew each other, you really were curious about what we were looking for. And one of the places that you rented us was a woman who was an artist, as my wife is, and that was a favorite rental of ours because of the setting and all of that. What makes you able to listen to and understand what people know about?
I don't know. I think that's what my skill is, what I'm good at. I ask people, what are you picturing? What do you, when they call me for a rental, I say, what are you picturing for yourself? What is it exactly that you're looking for? And a lot of times they don't know. So I ask them a bunch of questions and, you want beach? Do you want town? Do you want, it's the same thing that you do with sales. Um, but you have to listen is really what it is, and not just decide what you want to rent them, but what would be the best thing for their family. And, we have over 1,000 houses, and, I've been doing this a long time. So I know what works. I know which houses to avoid, which homeowners to avoid, which tenants to avoid as well. And so it's, just makes it easier. You really need to listen to them. And I think
So,
that's
so
what,
Lisa, are these renters typically coming in off season, or are they visiting and then sort of planning for the next year, whether it's a rental or a sale?
well, the rentals, they're not coming, but very few of them come and look at them. It's mostly done over the phone. And we start booking for, well, people are wanting to book already for next year, but we don't really know what's going on. But we start booking seriously in the fall for next year. And sales happen all times of the year. I mean, we have people looking now, but actually the busiest time for us is in the fall, when people are, the serious buyers come in the fall. And the most things I think are closing in the fall, like October, November, or they close, January, February.
So you're doing FaceTime walkthroughs with them, or
We
it's
are
mainly just,
now.
yeah.
We are now. I mean, we have been since COVID. I've sold two things sight unseen recently in the past, in the spring, and we do FaceTime calls with, and sometimes I'm not even there. The listing broker would be there, and I'm on the phone with, on Zoom with my customers, seeing it the same way that they are. And we do a lot of previews for people too that way. And then now, actually, in this market, we are not, a lot of sellers are not accepting sight unseen offers, because they are finding a way to get out of them. They do show up, they put it under agreement, and then they show up and they find something they didn't like the street, or they didn't like the neighbor, whatever. So now, right now, there a lot of sellers will not accept a sight unseen offer.
So the
So
contingencies are part of it
um,
then.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people aren't really doing contingencies now. They're dropping the building contingency, or their mortgage contingency, stuff like that are few and far between. But that was a contingency before. We haven't seen it, and so now they're not accepting that. So most of the deals are pretty clean. I'm very lucky. I
so
don't do mortgage contingencies very often here in this market.
At
let,
20,
let's I'm sorry. Let's talk about average, if there is such a thing as an average property or an average rental. But how would you describe those properties and what kind of pricing? I mean, Nantucket prices are probably some of the highest, maybe in the world in
In the
some
country,
cases.
yeah, for sure. We're like right around Aspen, I think is what we're compared to. Um, I don't know what the average sales price is right now, but it's in the twos. I don't know what it is exactly. And
And what do
but
you
right
get for 200,000?
Does not
so right
exist.
now it's yeah, right
Two
now
billion?
it's 2 million, yeah. It's a pretty basic house for Nantucket. It'll be mid-island. It will, maybe 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, maybe a half acre, probably not renovated. Although it could be, it depends. It really depends
So two
on
million
the location.
dollars gets you a fixer-upper, a good distance from the water.
Yeah, but you can't be too far from the water here. So
Well, that's
you're
the other
not,
question. Flood insurance for everyone, or
No.
no,
just
no, just certain properties. Yeah. So, yeah, and the average rental, I'm not sure what the average rental is. I mean, we have rentals from anywhere from 6,000, 5,000, 6,000 a week to I've done 75,000 a week, 100,000 a week.
So the
Um,
$26.5 million house on Pulpis Road is, there's actually three properties on this. Can we talk about your listing?
Sure. Yeah. So it's a 6.5 acre piece of property located on the harbor, on Pulpis Harbor. It's an older house. It was built in the 20s, 1920. Beautiful, rambling, old house. I mean, someone's going to come in and totally renovate it, which is kind of sad. But I mean, actually, it's a good, would be easy to do. High ceilings, beautiful, spacious rooms. Almost every window looks out at the water. And then there's also a 18, I can't remember exactly what it is, 1830s, I think, cottage that comes with it, although it feels very separate. It doesn't really feel, it feels like another property, but it is part of it. There's also a boathouse, and then there's a little, they call it what do they call it? Changing house that's down by the water. That's really a one-room cottage that they used to use to change when they after they went to the beach. It's actually not a beach there. It's a harbor. So there's two moorings out front, which is hard to get. And so that everyone wants to be able to put their boats in front of their house, so that you can't always get that.
What are
It's beautiful.
it truly is. Nantucket is a magical island. One of my favorite things is it happens in the winter. The Christmas, and there's another event in the winter. Is
Well,
it?
we have Christmas stroll, which
Yeah,
happens the first weekend in December. And then another big event on the island is Daffodil Weekend.
that.
So there's a daffodil, it's an
Yeah,
antique car parade, and
yeah.
um, a that's really fun. I think that's one of my favorites is Daffodil Weekend.
Let's get back to talking about real estate agents. That's mostly our audience here. Um, so many of them are afraid to even approach a luxury listing home. Um, you've always had them, so you know that they're people just like other people, except maybe a little crazier, certainly a lot wealthier. Is there any advice you could share?
Oh, I mean, that's all we have. So that's all that's all I deal with. But no, I mean, they're people like everybody else. They want to, they know what they want for sure. And the buyers are picky, they know what they want. And the other thing that we have to deal with on Nantucket, it's not like they have to have a house in Nantucket. It's not like looking for their primary residence. They need a place to live. They're making a choice that they want to be on Nantucket. And so they'll wait. They don't have to buy something that minute because they need it. They want it because they just, they'd like to have something in the future. So a lot of people were looking for, if you ever find something, call me, that fits this bill, or, maybe we'll buy something next year. Or, I had someone earlier in the summer that rented something. They told me that they wanted to buy something in the future. They wanted to buy something next year. But then they called me and asked me about something that was for sale that they saw in the newspaper or in Zillow or something. And it turned out that it was already already sold. And, I said, well, what about, would you consider, looking at this? And one house, they looked at it, this adorable house in town, and they bought it, and it wasn't even in their, they weren't even thinking about this year. They were thinking about a year from now or 2 years from now. So you never know.
So you bring up an interesting subject. So I started my career actually 39 years ago also. We got something in common there. In a luxury resort area, Palm Beach, Florida. And yeah, everything you're saying about people not, being in a rush or all that, it's a reminder. But there was a small community. What goes on in Nantucket off season? Are there?
Oh yeah, there's a big community here.
Okay.
I'm not sure how many people live here year round, but probably 10, 12,000 people. And it's a very close-knit community. Everybody helps everybody else and everyone knows everybody. They have their kids in school here, and it's a very, very close-knit community.
Are you there off season?
I am not. I was for years. I lived here for 15 years. My son was born here, and but I didn't want to live here anymore year round. So we are not here, but sort of go back and forth as needed. If I have customers, I'll come back and show them houses, or I have an assistant here that helps me. And once we got the internet, I didn't have to be here anymore. So that's been quite a while.
Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
When you are searching for a new home, you want to be working with a realtor with years of experience, a professional with intimate knowledge of the communities that you are considering moving to, and someone who really wants to represent you as a buyer in what is probably the largest investment you will ever make in your lifetime. The realtors at Castles Unlimited want to be your choice when you are ready to make your next move. Please visit us at castlesunlimited.com or call us anytime at 800-967-3561. The realtors at Castles Unlimited are here to help your next purchase, lease, or sale of any real estate the easiest decision you've ever made. Start your search anytime, 24/7 at Castles.
Welcome back. We're here with Lisa Winn from the Maury people in Sotheby's International in Nantucket. And she's sharing with us her insights not only on her $26.5 million home, 256 Pulpis Road, I believe is the address in Nantucket, but also sharing how you listen and how the importance of listening makes a difference, not just in luxury listing, but all of our real estate. So you listen a lot, Lisa. What are some of the crazy stories that you've heard?
Oh boy. I don't know. I just want to add one thing. I think it's really important to really listen, and don't waste somebody's time showing them houses because you feel like showing, if they say, I want a 4-bedroom house and 3 bathrooms, don't show them a house that's 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. It doesn't, unless it could be something, you could make it something different. But I feel like a lot of real estate brokers waste people's time, so you really do have to listen and show them what is, what there is. I don't know. There's so many crazy stories. We have some really wonderful rental stories, but people are.
So those tenants that you've had that you don't want to rent to again, what are those stories?
Hall of shame. Hall of shame.
Well, there's someone now on the island that there's some woman that wherever she goes, she claims there's bed bugs. She moves into a house and claims there's bed bugs and tries to get money back. There's no bed bugs on Nantucket. I've never heard of there being bed bugs on Nantucket. And, she does it every year. She keeps, saying and trying to get money back. But there's some nutcases out there. We had, we've we, we had someone, this was years ago, but we had someone come in once, and he walked in the office and he was holding a half-cooked turkey, and he threw it across the office, and it landed on my stepfather's desk, and it just slid across the desk into his lap. And said, and it was the winter. It was like, it wasn't in the fall. And that's what he did because his oven didn't work. He brought a turkey in and threw it at us. So I don't know. I mean, people are crazy. There's a lot of, I have to say, there's a lot
Crazy
of,
as bed bugs.
yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I could tell you stories all day long, but people are, the majority of people are wonderful. They take very good care of the homes, but there are some definitely entitled people out there, and you just have to know how to talk to them, how to deal with them, and sort of talk them down. And sort of, if you just sort of turn things around, and say, just think about what are you saying? Like, just listen to yourself.
I put them directly into my hall of shame. I have a separate
Yeah.
spot in my database, and like, no, not you. Here, I have someone
Yeah.
to refer you to.
Yeah.
So
No,
let's
we
talk
have.
about, I'm sorry, I just have to ask, how did you price that property? How long is the listing for? If you don't get an offer in so many days, do you lower the price, or is that the price forever?
I don't know. I don't know. We just take it as it comes. And there's nothing like this on the market. We compared it to the property next door sold last year at, I can't remember now. I think it was around the same price, 25, 26, 27, something like that. It was a little bit different. It had two homes on it, and they were renovated, and there was a swimming pool. But this is a nicer piece of property. And also that was before COVID. So, it's hard to price them. We don't really, when you take something like this that's so unusual, and you just sort of have to, there's a little bit of winging it and a little bit of, science to it. And you just hope that you've done it correctly.
Pricing.
There's no comps.
Pricing is always an art and a science. But what a lot of people don't realize is that we as real estate agents have to be able to come up with a price and justify that price. But it's the buyer who determines what they're going to
Right.
spend. And they're the one that says, I'll buy it for this. And the seller has nothing to do with that other than accept or reject it.
Right. Well, we were always taught, property is only worth as much as someone is willing to pay and someone is willing to sell it for. That's what
Right.
what the answer is. But yeah, it's hard. It's difficult. I mean, also on Nantucket, it's hard to come up with comps sometimes because every area on Nantucket is really different. So it's not like we have these cookie cutter houses that they're all the same. They're all, something in the area of Nantucket is going to be a totally different price than something in town or something in Sconset. So it's tough. It's tough to price them. And sometimes you can come up with something that's exactly right and what the price is going to be. And sometimes you just have to use your gut and make a decision.
Is it
Hope it
possible?
works.
Yeah. Is it possible, Lisa, that somebody could come on? 6.5 acres is a lot of land, especially on an island. Is it possible somebody could come in and say, I'm going to develop this and put,
Well, it's in 3-acre zoning, and
so they could have two
there's
spots?
they could, except for, well, these were actually it actually is 254 and 256. It was 254 and 256 Pulpis at one time. These people bought it, and both of them, and merged them. And now it doesn't really make sense. I mean, we did get a call from a broker saying, can this be subdivided? It can be, but it's not the best use of this property. There's some wetlands on it, and you would have to cut it up in a weird way. I mean, also the other thing is that the older house, the guest house, you could spin off it's called an 81L, which means it's been around for a long time, and you could actually make it, maybe cut off an acre. I don't know. It's some kind of odd zoning thing that you can do. so that's possible, but the cottage standing alone isn't really worth that much. And so it doesn't really make sense to do that. So I don't think anyone would do that. And we're not suggesting that they do, or the owners, the sellers are not willing to even talk about that.
So let's talk about new construction on Nantucket. What is going on there, and what's your typical house, or is
The thing that's
there
really
nothing
hot.
going on?
No, God, what's hot right now, what everybody wants is modern and new with the swimming pool. And those houses are selling very quickly. They're in the $4 million to $10 million, $12 million range. They pretty much start in 4.5, 4.9, something like that. And
So what's the process? Let's say I want to build a house for spec in Nantucket. How do I approach it? I come to you, Lisa, say I want to build, and
you want to build a spec house?
Spec house on Nantucket.
Yeah.
What am I going to run into for regulations and demo permits and things like that? What can be torn down? What can't be torn down? Things like that.
Well, anything can be torn down that's not an antique. And people are moving houses a lot too. So they'll take they'll buy a simple, a lot with a simple house on it, and they'll move it to another location, or they will offer it. You can't just demo a house here. You have to offer it to the general public first, so that there's not a lot of extra stuff in our landfill. So, because people were just knocking stuff down without, sometimes the Nantucket Housing Association, I can't remember the exact name for it. I'm drawing a blank. Nantucket Housing something. They might take the house. It's expensive to move them, but it's cheaper than building a new house. So that's the first thing you have to do to get plans. Everything has to go in front of our HDC, which is a Historic Districts Commission. So the entire island is actually an historic district. So anything that is done on the island, whether it's a renovation, even a fence or the color of your trim has to go in from the HDC. So you have to get through that. So we always suggest that people use a Nantucket architect, because they know what they're doing and they know what will pass. So the whole thing that takes a couple months to get through that. And get a building permit and all that. So,
and what about supplies and subs? Are there people
no,
on the
it's
island,
tough.
or
It's tough to
taking
get
the ferry
people.
every day?
Well, some people are flying over here every day. There's you should see the High Line, or taking the boat, the High Line ferry. I was leaving to go off island a couple of weeks ago, and on the early High Line, and the boat had just arrived, and it was just hundreds of workmen getting off of that boat coming from the Cape. So they're coming over every day. It is tough. It's tough to get people to, there's a lot of good builders. We lost a lot of good builders years ago during the the different, like the housing crisis thing. And so a lot of builders left. And so we have wonderful builders here, really, really high-end builders, but they're tough to get. So anything that you build from scratch, some of these nice houses, it's going to take, if we sell a lot to somebody, it's probably going to take 18 months minimum to move into your new house.
So is there a rivalry going on between Nantucket and the Vineyard?
None.
Not really. No, it's very different. People are either Vineyard people or Nantucket people. They very rarely go from one to the other.
And what's the difference?
You just like one or the other, really. The islands are very, very different. They have a totally different feel to them.
And it's different people.
It is totally different people.
My wife and I were married on Martha's Vineyard, and we vacationed on Nantucket. I owned property on Martha's Vineyard. I don't own anything on Nantucket. They're very different types of people, and the island feel is very different. But Cape Cod and the islands, it's a very special place here in our country.
It's difficult to get here. It's much easier to get to the Vineyard than it is to get here. So you have to really make it. You
can swim from Falmouth.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not easy to come here for the day, which you can go to the Vineyard for the day. It's much more expensive here. And everything's more expensive. The rentals are more expensive. The homes to buy are more expensive. The Vineyard's bigger, and they have more options than we do, but it's more, I feel like it's more exclusive here.
Well, you have certain areas, they have little townships. There's West Tisbury and Chilmark and Oak Bluffs and Edgartown
Vineyard Haven and
and
yeah.
Vineyard Haven. That's all of them. And Nantucket is different that way. There are the areas, but it's all Nantucket.
Yeah, we're all Nantucket, and we have really one town.
Right.
Wisconsin is a little village, but one main street, and with the shops and everything on it, and then the rest are really beach areas. So, and we have the most beautiful beaches in the world. And the difference is that on Nantucket, you could go to any beach you like. You don't, in Martha's Vineyard, there's deeded beach access. So if you don't, I think this is true, I hope I'm correct, but if you don't rent a house with deeded beach access, you've got to go to a public beach where it's just packed with people. In Nantucket, you can go down any dirt road and get to a beach as long as you're not walking through anyone's property.
I have to
So,
say, I have to say, packed on Nantucket is not Jersey Shore packed. Very, very different.
oh no, we're not. You can go to a beach here. You can find a beach here and basically be sitting by yourself. Just absolutely beautiful. Our island we have so much conservation. I can't remember how much exactly, but more than, I think almost like a half of the island is conservation land here. And every time anyone purchases anything here, we have a land bank. When you purchase something on Nantucket, when you purchase a piece of property, the buyer pays 2% land bank fee of the purchase price to the land bank, and the land bank buys open land with that. So every time you buy something, you're contributing to open land.
Nice. Did we run a second ad?
No, we ran out of time for today, talking about how wonderful Nantucket is. Would you suggest our people, like we may have some people here that want to join you in Nantucket? I think it would be really tough to come in as a new person in an attempt to be a real estate agent in Nantucket.
It is. It really is. We have, I think there's like 250 real estate brokers here, if you can believe that. And there's a lot of offices, and it's hard to get going. It really is. It's, in our office, we don't hire anybody just off the street. I mean, you have to have a Nantucket presence here. Good place to start though is doing rentals. So it's a lot of people start that way, get into the rental business and then move on to sales. But it's very competitive, and it's not easy, and you don't have to sell as many properties as some people do off island because the prices are so high. But you wonder if there's less than 250 houses for sale on the market. Normally we have like 500 houses for sale, and now we have like 150. So if there's 250 real estate brokers and there's only 150 houses for sale, someone's not making any money.
Right.
What is
so
I'm sorry. What is your MLS there?
We have our own version, which is Link, which they have in Boston, but it's just for Nantucket.
I see. Mm-hmm.
We have resisted over the years. My mother actually was the one that was was adamant that she didn't want to be part of the MLS because we didn't feel like we should share our business with people from off island and that didn't know the properties, didn't understand the business, didn't understand the whole our whole market. So we've kept that out. Although there are people from the Cape and that have joined Link, Nantucket's version. Link is also on Martha's Vineyard, I believe too, but they're not connected. So we're just on Nantucket.
One last question. The listing on Pulpis, how long are you allowed to say how long you take listings for that are?
We usually try and get them for a year.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Yeah, and then we, hopefully we sell them way before that.
Of course.
A year is a good period of time.
Yeah.
Lisa, thank you so much for coming in and sharing. It was great catching up with you again. And tune in next week for some more great information. Thank you so much. And thanks for listening
Thank
to
you.
Broker Talk.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Maybe next week, new music. Let's wait for that.